You know what I'm saying? He got them all, you know what I'm saying, out of there and used whatever power he thought that he had, you know what I'm saying, and used that against them and bent them to his will type thing and controlled them.
All right, so I want to see if you understand what you're saying. You're saying because of the fact that he was Pakistani or Afghani or whatever, he looked down on African American, and he used that to basically get what he wanted. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, of course. I believe that is true, because if you look at the situations, and if you look at like the communities now, anytime that a community or a person in the community gets married, what do? They mimic the Pakistani culture. They don't even go into Arabs or like how the Muslims, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how they did their marriage rituals. It goes straight into Pakistani and what his people do, and they wanted their marriages and their ceremonies to look and resemble so much of what his culture does. But what is our culture in that? What were the African people doing? What were the American people doing when they were getting married? There's no resemblance of it. Right. I see where you're going with that, but my thing is, he knew exactly what he was, and he knew what type of people he could control. And make them. But the people ate it up, and people who were helping in the community, they forced them that. Somebody tell you when you're down bad and when you're desperate, and you know what I'm saying, and you're down bad, you're gonna believe what anybody. Anybody like that can get manipulated. He manipulated the whole community of African Americans and whole generations. Yeah, whole generations of African Americans for 40 years, like you said. He manipulated us, and you know what I'm saying, made us believe that he was the sixth sultan. You know what I mean, and he's has the blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know what I'm saying, and all that. You know what I'm saying. He made us believe that's crap. You know what I mean? And he did that, and it affected my family. It affected, as you know, it affected my own. My grandmother's still in that. You know what I mean? And she still believes in what she believes in. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? I don't know.
Was there ever a time where, like, you yourself thought that this can't be real, this can't be true?
I never thought. I never really bought into all that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? For real, I really wanted to do. I didn't want to go against what my boo believed in. You know what I mean? So I kind of I wanted to. I didn't want to argue with no one about what is right. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know myself. You know what I mean? Like I said, we was following what we would learn, what we taught, what we were taught. You know?
So you practically just went along with what your parents were doing, although, like you said, it seemed as if, everybody was trying to be Pakistani besides being, instead of being Muslim.
All that, yeah, that stuff, it messed me up a little bit when I was in my teenager years. You know what I'm saying? I would be afraid to go to sleep some nights, because, you know what I'm saying, I would be like, well, it's just this, I don't know. There was a lot of spiritual abuse going on, you know what I'm saying? And I also think, again, like the same thing with this white slave masters did, they kind of robbed people in the whole community of their identity.
Well, I do, and I read it from their own publications, from their own writing, that he had a degree in psychology, and that.
Exactly. So this is what he was doing.
Right.
Exactly
and it's hard for me to imagine him having a degree in psychology and not using it, particularly when it came to this. It's really hard for me to imagine that. But definitely when it comes to the spiritual perspective of it, I agree with that being a very important focus, because what in the world is Sultanate anyway? Like, where is such thing like the sixth Sultan? Where did this whole ideology come from of Sultanate?
Southeast Asia. It came from Southeast Asia.
It came from Southeast Asia?
It really came from Southeast Asia, because I had just spoken to another person I had spoken to earlier, with Mahbub, and who his father was in this, and he had told me some things that I wasn't aware of until he brought it to my attention today. You know what I mean? There were, like Opera said, there were a lot of people who were, like drug dealers, down and out people who were lost and they wanted some guidance, but there were also a good number of wealthy people who grew up into money and, and had money and were making money in the early times of the movement, and they gave large amounts to Mubarak Jelani and his cause.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So there, it wasn't always just the poor people, but he was definitely using their wealth to help further his movement, while simultaneously leaving generations to come without that said wealth. People grew up and inherited wealth, and then that entire wealth was lost because it was fed into the Jamaat. It was fed into somebody else's family. You get what I'm saying? Thus leaving their family with less. People really made his mission more important than their own families.
Well, what exactly? I mean, did either of you ever hear as to what his mission really was, or what they claimed his mission was?
His mission, to my knowledge, was that he was Ahli Bayt, and he was
okay. I don't know how.
Ruler.
I don't know how your mission is to. I don't know how Ahl Bayt and mission are even connected. I don't understand. But in other words, what does Ahl Bayt have anything to do with a mission? Explain that one to me.
I think their ideology in it was that because he was of the family of Rasulullah, he was meant to be most qualified to lead anybody, because he had his blood in him, in that because he said who he was, and he was a sultan, made from the light of Allah, the nur of Allah. And there were some other things that it was said that he was taught by Hazrat Ali.
All right. I want to address what
outlandish things.
I want to understand. No, I understand one thing at a time. So basically, you're saying, as far as him being his mission, as far as his mission is concerned, it did not have to do with something he was supposed to do, but who he already was. I thought a mission, again, was what you have to do. It's like, I have a mission to be, an executive. My name is such and such does not have anything to really do necessarily with me becoming an executive. So him being Ahlul Bayt, a lot of Ahlul Bayts around us. We are all Ahlul Bayt, theoretically, by being siblings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What exactly was his mission? What was he supposed to do? That's the question. What was his job as he came here? What did he line out that this was what he was supposed to do? What did he make people understand that this was what he was supposed to do for them?
That is something that is not clear to me.
Until today. How about you? Did you ever hear about that? Did you ever hear, what his mission was, or what it was about, or?
I don't know. I feel like he just wanted to.
No. I'm asking, like, what was stated? What have you ever heard from TMOA as to what Mubarak Jelani's mission in the United States was?
I have no.
No clue. Right, like that was never clarified. Okay. Was it ever, and you said about the Sultan, the sixth Sultan, did you ever know where the sixth Sultan, did you ever know who the third or the second or the fourth Sultan was, particularly the second, third, fourth Sultan? Did you ever hear about them? So out of all the Sultans, I mean, you said he was
I don't know in order, in actual order, like numbers wise, but I do always remember them saying that I remember they had a song about it as well.
All right.
Hassan Basri, Mahboubi, Subhani, and then after that came Abdul Qadir Jilani, Abdul Raza, you know what I'm saying, Bahu, Syria. It was a bunch of, and even those words and these songs that they made, you know what I'm saying, glorifying him and I guess whatever lineage he came from. It didn't really clarify who those people were. Were those people in the song? Were they the other sultans? It was never really made clear.
I mean,
but I do remember them saying Abdul Mahboubi Subhani, whoever that person is. I've never heard of him. anywhere besides that song. And then another sheikh, maybe his name was he had the same name as him, Abdul Qadir Jilani, and that's separate from Mubarak Ali Shah Jilani. Remember, I think he just added this Shah in there. You know what I'm saying? That might not even be his real name. I think maybe he just took it and added an extra word in there.
Well, let me tell you that as far as what we have and understand, that means the Allied coalition forces, we understand his mission to have been come and infiltrate the Darul Islam movement. It was a very big movement. It was a Muslim movement. There were people who were doing things that were good, and there were people who were doing things not so very good or whatever. He came and they orchestrated that to happen as he did it. That was orchestrated for him to take the Imam Yahya Abdul Karim, the way he took that man and the way that he took his position, that exactly was the plan. Because that movement had become stronger than the Nation of Islam. It had become much stronger at that time in the 80s. They even had an army. They had a factory. I mean, they had a lot of things. And again, you had some of them who were doing not so well, and then some of them who were actually doing well. But we know for a fact that Ronald Reagan is mentioned as being his co-conspirator in that effort to break up the Darul Islam movement. Now, we also know that he had connections, like his father, with the Pakistani intelligence. So that explains why it is, or how it is, he got into the political arena and get to the Darul Islam movement. And that also explains why a number of, actions took place, firefights took place after people wanted to not follow him. We also know that he had some assassinations assigned to, like contracts on people. The Pakistani intelligence, we also know, gave him contracts for the Hindu temple bombing in Canada, as well as the theater there, which he had clause to be a jihad operation. Because remember, the Darul Islam movement, they were on the mind frame of jihad already. They really were there. So he was practically a Sufi and a jihadi sheikh at the same time, with connection to the Pakistani intelligence, who assigned these contracts to him, which got a lot of people locked up. It put some people in the wheelchair. It took some people to the grave because he was doing job for the Pakistani intelligence. And that's why, although people were going to Pakistan to see him, he could never come over here. Neither was there any attempt to take him to Guantanamo Bay, even after 9/11, despite all these things that were mentioned, because the Pakistani intelligence were there, making sure that the deal was that he would not step ground on the soil of the United States in return for his safety in Pakistan. Okay, so we know this is what we are saying was his mission. But if TMOA or anybody who is sympathizing to TMOA say that his mission was otherwise, tell us. What do you think his mission was? Show us where he said that this was his mission. And on top of everything else, make sure that you understand that if it's false, we're going to tell you why it's false. For example, he helped a lot of people. That was his mission, and it proves that he's the sixth sultan. I'm sorry, but there are a lot of people who are helping other people, and they have nothing to do with any type of sultani or anything. So that's not proof, right? Hazrat Ali used to come at night and teach me. All right, I'm sorry, where in the Quran does that qualify you to be anything or anybody else? Where in the Sunnah does it say that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or any of his companions would come later on teaching somebody who would be what it is that you're asserting to him? The dreams we're very familiar with. Sufia we're very familiar with too. So a lot of things that they're actually asserting to Sufia or Sufism is not there. But a lot of other things that they're asserting to him, like the light, he spark of light, these are things that they cannot just make claims without any proof. And it's not just he said it or we learned it at the retreats through some books. You know, those things don't fly. That's not proof. That's not evidence. Bring Quran, yes, that's proof. Bring Quran to substantiate that Quran, yes, that's proof. Bring story of the Prophet, the Sunnah, to substantiate how that Quran is even there. That's even more proof on top of proof. But not, learned at some retreats while he was looking at the Quran, trying to read the Quran, he was speaking from Allah, because we know he could not read the Quran. These things, be careful. What was his mission? Was his mission really what you say it was? Because he didn't speak that well, as far as I could tell from his videos. I never could understand what he was saying, but now you're giving me this great spiel of what his mission was. Where did you see it? Do you have a video of that, of him actually saying that, for us to understand? But the point of the matter is, when you weigh, the pros and the cons, then you definitely see that the people got conned. You can see it, because again, if you assert that he's the light of Allah, but he's not reciting Quran, he doesn't have Quran. I mean, how is Allah Ta'ala being the source and original, the originator of the Quran? How is it that he comes from, that he, Mubarak Jalani, is supposedly a light of the source of the Quran, but he doesn't know Quran? How is that possible? This type of thing has to be clear. If you say he got it from Hazrat Ali, you're going to have to do a lot more than that, because Hazrat Ali is buried in Ijaz, in Kufa. I mean, what do you have to prove that he came back, you understand, to life, and that's something that any of us could assert. Why should we believe what it is that you're telling us if in fact we have publications that we know you cut and pasted? All the books, Xavier publication, all the books, they cut and paste with the exception of two. Dr. Tia was saying, you did, you plagiarized that. That's plagiarism. There's nothing uncertain about that being plagiarism. So if you did something like that, huh?
If I could insert a subject, and maybe you could help answer this for me. Because somebody had brought it to my attention as to why now of all times, after the man has passed away, that people are choosing to speak up on, that maybe his lineage or his legacy or whatever his mission was. Why is it that he waited until he's passed to do these things? If you can help me answer that.
Yeah, that's really important. First of all, I don't know who believes that they waited to speak out or speak up. But you and I both know yours truly is not in that category. Because when they claimed that there was a miracle, I stated, I spoke up back then. But even prior to that, the questions that I had back in 2000 or 2001, when I first heard about the fact that he was a Sufi sheikh, those questions, why he could not come over here, the questions that I just, addressed right now, he could not come over here because of those, terrorist activities, but that did not come out until after he died. So when I found that out, obviously, I had to make specifics on that. Like, wow, like after 21 years, it's finally clear. The other thing is that the Quranic revolution of 2021, a lot of people do not understand that it actually spoke volumes as to liars and lies, people who are just fabricating things about the Quran, all unacceptable. This is all considered as a means of rebellion against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to speak out against all of it. So that actually happened in 2021. He was still alive when that happened. People do not know. But when people do not know, yes, they can ask and we can answer. We can answer. It's not just, 2021, 2022, the Quran revolution, intellectually, anything that is false. Assert it to the Quran.
Amidst that, on my end, personally, I know that even though yours truly, from the time of maybe 2012, that I had in my heart, I had known that who he was. If he was who he said he was, it was okay from my personal standpoint. But I also know around 2017 is when I started openly, refusing whatever he claimed to be. I openly said that no, if he is who he was, that's okay. But if he's not, then he's gonna have to deal with a very harsh reality. You know what I'm saying? Later on.